Whereas mutation, the whole form only will be changed. It takes little time for you to understand what mutation has taken place. Continuously, there has been lot of power that is gained by the creature there. It is pronounced as mythological because MITH is myth. If you are pronouncing it as mythological, please change it to mythological. Hello everyone, I am Dr. Shalini, Professor of English, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Today we are here to understand one of the poems prescribed by University of MYSURU for 2nd Sem BCom. We are going to study about Ulysses by the Merlion. So in today's session, we'll learn about the poet first, then about the theme. We'll move on to the summary, then the literary devices, if at all there are any, and also the new words. So these are the contents that are there in today's session. We'll start by learning about the poet. So he is the great poet who has written this Ulysses by Merlion. His name is Edwin Thumboo. The complete name is Edwin Nadesan Thumboo. So he was a Singaporean poet. You might have got that clue when I said that Ulysses by Merlion, isn't it? Merlion is that the signature idol that is there in Singapore. Fine. So he is a Singaporean poet and he is an academician who is regarded as one of the pioneers of English literature in Singapore. So he was the pioneer of English literature in Singapore. He started introducing English literature in Singapore. He started lot of translations. He has written lot of poems. He has written lot of essays which actually show most of his essays have the common theme there, that is the cultural identity. So let us see what is there in this poem also. He is regarded as actually the greatest poet who introduced English literature to Singapore. He is an emeritus professor at National University of Singapore. He is there even today and people feel very blessed there whenever they get to meet him or they get to work with him. He is an emeritus professor there at the National University of Singapore. He compiled and edited some of the first anthologies. Anthologies is the collection of poems. Fine. So many anthologies of English poetry. So this is the English poetry that he has edited and he has compiled also. And fiction. He has also taken fiction from Singapore and Malaysia. So he translated all this literature that was there in Singapore and Malaysia to English and he has made a collection of that there. So he is a very knowledgeable person. There are no words to describe him. Fine. So we get to know about him through this poem, that is Edwin Thumboo. Let us see what is there in this poem. To understand with, we'll start with the theme of the poem. So we'll understand the theme of this poem here. This poem tells us about wandering, rootlessness, or maybe unity in diversity, progress, modernization, hybridization. Then we have loss of cultural identity. So all these are the themes that are used in this poem. So how is this possible? Like so many themes that are used in this poem. So this poem actually talks about the cultural identity, the rootlessness. That means he is talking about the people who have migrated to Singapore and they have to give their roots over there. They have to keep their roots over there. So that he is talking about the Singaporeans who do not have proper roots. That is, they are not too much into the society. They are not able to adapt themselves to the society. So he is talking about that. So he introduced that English literature here, as I said before. So that also talks about the Singaporean society only. So due to this modernization, how people are finding it difficult to adapt themselves. So that is what he is talking about in this poem, and most of his works are about such themes only. He also talks about this rootlessness, how he wanders and finds a place over there, finds a proper place over there and finds the proper root there in the society is what he talks about. Then loss of cultural identity. So he is talking about due to this hybridization means there is a level shift from one to another. So that time what kind of loss of cultural identity happens? That is the new generation actually forget the old generation's practices and all. So that cultural identity is lost. So he is talking about that there. So he has just taken this character, that is Ulysses by the Merlion. Fine. So let us now get into the summary of the poem. So it is in first person narration. What is first person narration? That is the poem starts with I. Okay. So you can notice whether there are rhyming words or not. If there are no rhyming words, then the literary device that is used will be enjambment. Fine. I have sailed many waters, skirted islands of fire, contended with Circe, who loved the squeal of pigs, passed Scylla and Charybdis to 7 years with Calypso. So he is talking about various places over here, how he has sailed many waters. That means he has crossed many seas, you can say. Fine. So here waters actually means sea or ocean or whatever he is crossing. Fine. Usually water will not a countable noun. It does not have plural form. But here waters actually means this sea and this ocean what he is crossing. Skirted islands of fire. The temperature is too much. The islands that have fire also. That means which are too hot also. Contended with Circe. So he is talking about the places there. He is talking about the ancient gods that were there. So the author or maybe Ulysses, what he is talking about, the character what he is talking about, he is the narrator in this poem. So Ulysses is talking about over here. You might be knowing about Ulysses, isn't it? Ulysses was a great explorer. Fine. So that one only he has used over here, and he is talking about how he has crossed many waters and how much of experience he has gained to 7 years with Calypso. So he is talking about the duration he has sailed in the waters. Okay. So the next stanza is actually not a stanza kind of division that is done here, but I have just chosen few lines so that it will be easy for you to understand. So heaved in battle against the gods, beneath it all, I kept faith with Ithaca, travelled. So he is talking about the gods, the places over there. Travelled, travelled and travelled. You can see there is a repetition of this word. So this is also a kind of literary device, that is repetition. So this is also a kind of literary device. So he had faith in some place and he travelled, travelled and travelled. Fine. Suffering much, enjoying a little. So according to him, the suffering was more compared to the enjoyment what he had. Here it can be the journey of Ulysses what he is talking about, the narrator is talking about, but he is talking about the people who are there. Their suffering was more compared to their enjoyment in the society. Fine. So they have suffered much. So here one person represents the whole society. So suffering was more, enjoying little, met strange people singing, new myths, made myths myself. So he has explored so many things. He has met many strange people who were singing. Many new myths were found. So he was able to understand the culture. So he also speaks about this loss of cultural identity, isn't it? Like that only he has learned a lot of cultures also, because it's actually a cross culture that is mixed up in Singaporean society. There are Singaporeans, Malaysians, there are Indians, everything. Fine. This author itself, the poet itself is actually a Tamil based Singaporean who was there. Fine. So he himself is a cross-cultured person who is there, who is representing, and he is talking about the things what he experienced in his life. So there were new myths that were there, and he also has made new myths also. That means myth is something which you believe to be true, believe it to be true, but they will not be true. Okay, myths are something which you believe to be true, they are not actually true. Fine. So like that only he has understood so many facts like that, but he himself has made some facts also like that only, he says. But this lion of the sea, now coming to this Merlion, he is talking about the Merlion here. You can see that Singaporean, there is a lion there and it just is spitting water from its mouth, and you can see the bottom portion here, it is a beast, it is a lion. Okay, whereas this part is like a mermaid or maybe a fish. Okay, it represents a fish also. So it is because this part represents that it is very strong in the sea, but this part represents creature is very strong on the land. So it's a cross culture. So that is represented by that Merlion. So this whole statue what is there, that is called as the Merlion. Fine. So the Ulysses by Merlion actually represents that. This is a poem from Singapore. Fine. So this thing is actually the brand, this one statue of that Singapore, isn't it? So when you type Singapore, you get that statue only, isn't it? So that is called as the Merlion. The name of this statue is Merlion. So here, but this lion of the sea, salt manned, scaly, wondrous of tail. So he's talking about the lower portion of the statue what is seen there. So the lion of the sea. So here he is talking about the lion, and this one is the part that is very active in the sea. Fine. So that is scaly. It is like fish only. Fine. And it is wondrous of tail. It has a tail also like a fish. Fine. So it is very strong in the sea, and the beast part is strong on the land. So it is a cross culture, and it has grown very strongly in Singapore. So that is what he means to say over there. Touched with power, insistent on this brief promontory puzzles. So he is talking about how strong they became. So with power, he has got that power, that Merlion has got that power there. Insistent means continuously on this brief promontory. So continuously he has been in power. He is very powerful to adapt to the society there. Nothing in my days. Again, there is a repetition here. Nothing in my days foreshadowed this, half beast, half fish. Yes, this is the Merlion he is talking about. So this is the name of the beast there. This powerful creature of land and sea. So the power what that creature has got, touched with power, insistent. So continuously there has been lot of power that is gained by the creature there. So half beast, half in the sea. It actually is a very powerful creature of land and sea. So both the places it is actually very powerful. That is what the poet is talking here. So here the literary devices what we saw here, I already told you the repetition, that is few words were repeated. Nothing, or maybe travel and travel. So this way it is repeated. Fine. So this is one of the literary devices, and you can also see enjambment. It is written in free verse. This poem has no rhyme scheme. Okay, you could see, right, there were no rhyming words at all. So there is no rhyme scheme. That means this poem is written in free verse. When it is written in free verse, it doesn't have a rhyme scheme. Fine. So the enjambment is the most commonly seen literary device. Enjambment, you already know, the sentence doesn't end here. It has no end here, no full stop only. It ends somewhere in the middle, and the sentence starts somewhere again in the middle. Again, it may end somewhere there and begin like this. So such a usage of words is called as enjambment. Fine. So this is seen whenever the poem is written in free verse only. Fine. Yeah, this poem might seem, for you, it might seem like it is not understandable or something like that. But the poet is talking about the basic theme you should understand. Then you will be able to understand the poem better. So what is the basic theme the poet is talking about? He is talking about cross culture. He is talking about loss of cultural identity. He is talking about the hybridization, how Singapore has grown, then how it is cross-cultured, how there is rootlessness, means people from other place come there, they struggle, and then they get their root, they get a proper hold in the society. So these are the themes spoken by the poet, and the same words, the same theme is carried over in the words that he has used. So you have to understand the theme first and then read the poem, then you will be able to understand it better. Let us go through the new words that are there in the poem. Yes, the new words are very important because those are the ones which made your understanding very difficult, isn't it? So to begin with, it is calypso. I didn't tell you the meaning over there because we had a separate slide for this. Fine. So go through these new words and then read the poem. You will be able to understand it better. So calypso, it's a kind of West Indian that is originally from Trinidad. Okay, so this is a Trinidad that has the root in Trinidad, music in syncopated African rhythm. So this is actually a kind of music. Fine. So calypso is a kind of music that has origin in Trinidad. Trinidad is a place. Fine. So that has root in Trinidad and it is actually blended with this African rhythm. So that is called as calypso. It's just a kind of music. Fine. So that comes to Singapore also. So that also is actually a cross culture that has blended in Singaporean society. Then we have this heaved. Heaved means to produce. So something that is produced. So something that is heaved means you produce that. Fine. Then we have this Ithaca. Ithaca is actually the name of the Greek island. So when we spoke about that, when I told you that Ulysses has traveled from one place to another, so there he uses all these like Ithaca and two more places he uses over there. Then myth, a traditional story which may be true, may not be true. Most of the times it is a myth, means it is actually false only. A traditional story usually it comes in this folklore and all. Okay, folklore and all, you get to read some stories and all. So that is actually traditional and it will not be true, and that is called as a myth. You come across this mythological story, right? You don't pronounce it as mythological, you pronounce it as mythological. Okay, it is pronounced as mythological because MITH is myth. If you are pronouncing it as mythological, please change it to mythological. Fine. Then wondrous, wondrous, you can get the meaning only, like a feeling of wonder, isn't it? Wonder, wondrous. So here, inspiring a feeling of wonder or delight, something that is marvelous, superb, extremely good. So that is nothing but wondrous. Then we come to promontory. Yes, I didn't tell the meaning of this also there. It is actually a very high land. Fine, that comes, that juts out into a sea, means it is actually a high land that connects to the sea. Fine, or maybe the large lake, something like this, something, it will be very large and there will be water structure over here, and that actually juts down, means that touches the sea. Fine, the point wherein the high land touches the sea, that is called as the promontory. That is common in Singapore. Fine, this is very commonly seen in Singapore. Then we have bounty, which means reward. Fine, nature gives us a lot of bounty, that is rewards. Fine. Mutate, to undergo a change. So mutation means nothing but the change. You commonly come across this when it comes to virus. Virus actually mutates, means the form itself is changed. He uses this word instead of this word change because change, it is easily understandable. Whereas mutation, the whole form only will be changed. It takes little time for you to understand what mutation has taken place. You have come across this word when you have read about coronavirus. Okay, so that virus has mutated, means the other form, the other variant will be found. So this is what he talks about, mutation. Here he is not talking about the virus, but he is talking about the culture, the Singaporean society that has mutated, the culture that is mutated here. There is a lot of change because of that cross culture connection. So that is what he talks about over here. Surfeited, it is consume too much of something, means you take too much into your mind. You think about something too much, that means you consume too much into your mind. You think about something, about that only in your mind, that is nothing but you are surfeiting it. Okay, so these are the new words that are found in this poem, that is Ulysses by Merlion. So by this we come to an end of this session. This was the summary of Ulysses by Merlion. So please go through the recorded lecture, then go through the new words, then take the poem in your hand to read, because the language is little difficult, but it's a very wonderful poem in order to understand the cross culture that has taken place in Singapore. Fine. So I expect you to read the poem and come back to the physical class so that we can discuss and solve the doubts whatever you have got. So come back to the class prepared. Keep learning. See you soon. Thank you for your time. Take care. Bye-bye.